This movie is about people who've lost any sense of meaning in their lives.
As Wichita falls, so falls Wichita falls.
And I think I was intrigued by the idea of a Christmas Eve of spiritually homeless men behaving badly.
Yo, ho, ho, mofo, what are you doing here, man?
It is a movie about people who are born to exploit other people.
To the victor go the spoils.
It's a story of two knuckleheads who want to get out of the small town world and go someplace and enjoy the fruits of life.
What's that, Roy? Jesus fucking Christ!
At the heart of this novel and screenplay and film is these kind of grim existential realities that I find amusing somehow. The central beliefs of existential philosophy are that life is meaningless, that we're all going to die, that we're alone in the universe, and that we're responsible for everything we do.
My God, we're actually doing this.
No, we're not doing it. It's already done.
All right, here we go, and rolling.
Hey, Mark.
I think The Ice Harvest is a terrific title because it sort of describes the state of the guy's soul. He's kind of been frozen for a while.
Really, in each of these relationships, Charlie is in over his head. Vic is just a much nastier, shrewder, tougher guy than Charlie.
What's wrong with you? He just called to wish me a Merry Christmas. Well, what did you say? Well, I wished him a Merry Christmas. What did he say? Hey, what do you mean, what did he say? What are you worried about?
Renata is beautiful and calculating and elusive, and Pete is just a complete anarchist and a wild card.
You're flipping off the mob here, Mr. Plop. You look like my Plop.
Who are you talking to?
Yet, you know, Charlie somehow pulls it out and somehow manages to persevere and to engage with these complicated characters.
I saw him speaking. His lips were moving. Did he say anything?
Charlie's just killing time. Charlie's just killing time before he's got to be somewhere. He's got 4 hours to kill. If he didn't have 4 hours to kill, I doubt he'd hang out with Pete that long. But Pete doesn't know that. Pete's desperate for company. There are these two losers bumbling around, kind of raging against the banality of it all.
I read the novel and manuscript and really responded to it. It laid out very well for a movie. It was a compelling crime story with really interesting characters, and it had a real nasty edge set on Christmas, and that sort of contradiction really caught my attention, and it just felt like a great movie. Talked to Ron about it, and we really felt it was something that would be a great thing to develop.
It's in the genre of a crime caper movie, but it has all these kind of subtle but philosophical ideas underneath it, and all that always seemed to me potentially intriguing.
No, I read the script and just committed based totally on the first reading of the script, and then read the novel after I'd already kind of campaigned for the job. I read the novel kind of scanning for things that I thought the screenwriters may have missed that should be in the screenplay, and I couldn't find any.
It's always fun because there's a kind of a cheat sheet. You can always go back and go, all right, well, what are we doing here? And what did this guy write? So you can always go back and steal lines from it or bits from it or see what the original intention was. What are you doing here?
Trying to get my ashes hauled, baby! Merry Christmas! Noel!
As a writer-director, what you're always looking for, because the writer is the lazy guy, is a script so well written you won't have to even touch it, because writing's the hard part. And in this case, I read it and I thought, wow, I could shoot this. I could shoot this just as it is.
It was great meeting with Harold, and he had a very funny existential take on the material, and then he decided, because of family and having moved to Chicago 10 years ago, that he wanted to only do it in Chicago. He's a big part of the Chicago filmmakers movement.
I realized no one knows what Wichita looks like. I couldn't even find any pictures of Wichita, you know? And I realized, I think Wichita looks like the Chicago suburbs. And in fact, it's one of the underlying kind of subtextual themes of the book is that the whole country's homogenous now. You have the same mall every place you go with the same stores. So I realized Chicago's suburbs are as good a place as any to shoot the movie. And the less it became about Wichita, the more it really turned into, stylistically, what I'm calling a retro film noir.
I think what has come out of it is a colorful, noirish film. We've embraced some of the classic noir elements in some of the scenes, you know, with contrasty lighting and pools of light, but we've combined that with lurid colors, you know, fluorescent colors and sort of oranges and greens and blues, and a lot of greens and blues actually playing off of the whole ice theme of the movie.
And then county exits. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, second team.
It sort of shares what all the great film noir experiences have. You know, it's a little murky, but it's kind of sexy, and there's plenty of mystery and lots of jeopardy.
You're in love with me.
I've always liked you.
I've noticed.
It's exciting to me that we have this one character in this film who, at first, the first part of the film, he's in total silhouette, so we never see his face, and then the last part of the film, he's inside a trunk.
Is that you, August?
So you just hear his voice, and so it's a wonderful moment when he finally opens that trunk and you get to see him for the very first time.
God damn it, Roy. That was just blind fucking luck, you asshole.
Give me a hand, August!
So that kind of approach kind of captures, I think, the whole essence of Ice Harvest. It's a fine balance between the fun of this film and the darkness of it.
At one point, you know, you'll have Oliver will come in and pass out and do almost like a pratfall.
I got it. All right. I got it. Okay?
Hey!
But then, you know, when he wakes up, he goes into this very eloquent speech about how much he hates his life, and it's really kind of sad, you know, really tragic.
It's great counter-programming to the Christmas glop that we get every year. If I hear those Christmas albums one more time, you know, it's like, especially at my age, you know, how many times can you watch It's a Wonderful Life?
And you need something different during the holiday season.
Well, as Harold sometimes said, the title should be Nothing Like Christmas. We've decided to make it a rainy, dismal, miserable Christmas.
One day, while we were early in the prep of the film, I left my house here in Chicago, and it was like 35 degrees and raining. And I thought, oh God, it's miserable. It's like wet and cold, and then it just dawned on me. It seemed so obvious, you know, that in keeping with the downbeat tone of the story, what if it's a wet Christmas instead of a white Christmas? And that made sense. The middle of winter here in Chicago, April 27th.
And action.
Harold's really lucky with weather. He says in all of his movies, he gets incredibly lucky. Like, he's never had a day where he's been rained out, and so it's been really cold when we shot at night, and even actually raining. So it's been pretty frigid.
Yesterday I boasted, I've directed 10 films, and I boasted that in 580 shooting days I'd never lost a day to weather, which is still true. If we get the scene in, then my record is still intact, but I shouldn't have said it. Oh, well. Oh my God. I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for quite some time. It was like when someone's bowling a 300, right? You're not supposed to say it. I shouldn't have said it. So we got lightning, thunder, possible tornadoes, but it'll be all right. I think we should go with the real rain.
Yeah.
The hoses off.
Turn the hoses off and shoot.
Can't believe we're making John do this. Comes in with like a fever. Says, he wants to go home early because he's getting sick. So what do? We put a fire hose on him and cut it. Check the gate.
It's gotta look cool.
It looks great. It looks good.
I couldn't hear the bullhorn, so I just...
He didn't have it. The bullhorn died. No batteries for the bullhorn?
It's gotta look fantastic.
It does.
That's good.
So the first couple of days I thought, oh, is Harold, you know, he's not saying a whole lot. And then when he opens his mouth and comes to talk to you, it's incredibly perceptive.
I wish you wouldn't do that, buddy. Do what, buddy? That Pete. Wasn't that Vic Cavanaugh?
Yeah, so what?
Excellent, excellent. One more like that. That's great. Really funny.
It just makes you feel safe. It's just somebody who sits there and you kind of feel that you can go any direction.
It's almost like I need you guys to look at each other when you say I love you. You have to look at him.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is going to let you do whatever you come up with at that moment, and it's great when he comes back laughing.
No, pull your head up. You sit up.
I love you.
Look at him. Yeah.
Hey.
That's what we need. Is all right. You grow up thinking that being the director means you're in control of everything, and the thing you find out immediately is you're actually at the mercy of everything. You're totally dependent on other people's ability and their energy, and I guess I learned that the smartest thing to do was to do my best, accept that I have limitations, and be open to the input of other people. You hire the best people you can find, why not listen to them? You know, the last one was pretty sober,
Right.
First one was pretty jovial, and
We want to do whatever you want to do, Billy. I'll do whatever you want to do.
that's cool. From tough to friendly, yeah.
Okay.
As Wichita falls, so falls Wichita Falls. I like this.
It's kind of this circular mantra. You know, they're basically so numb that everything seems sort of relative.
That was kind of a philosophical idea and a cryptic aphorism that was added in the writing of the screenplay.
It's a kind of an odd little wordplay, which most people don't know that Wichita and Wichita Falls are two different places. Wichita is in Kansas and Wichita Falls is in Texas.
What was that?
Nothing. It's just a nonsensical thing that, and in fact for me reinforces the idea that life is meaningless in the movie.
In a film like this, hopefully what the audience gets from this is entertainment. You know, I'm not going to say that this film is going to change the world, or they're going to get some message from it that's going to mean something in their lives. This film is purely entertainment.
The movie to me is a more honest look at where we are as a people, you know, and as individuals, without ever saying it to anybody. Someone once said the great difference between Hollywood films and independent films, and this is the first independent film I've made, is that Hollywood films show us the world the way we wish it was, and independent films show us the world the way it really is. And I thought, all right, this is, you know, my chance to explore that side of the street, you know, aesthetically and commercially.
Okay, Rusty, both of them clockwise at the same time, please. Jesus Christ, where do I get these women? Hey, how you doing, fellas?
That's fucking horrible. Tossing me a beer.
Why don't we talk about a movie?
What movie?
A movie called Ice Harvest.
This mean you're rich, Charlie? Because if you are, we could run away together.
It's a thought.
Leaving Wichita. Damn right it's a thought.
I heard it was based on a dirty book.
Well, it got dirtier in the filming.
I myself want a new life.
You don't want mine. I really do.
There's strippers in this picture?
I don't know, are there?
Well, I don't know. Let's see what we can find out.
Okay. Our part of this project began with a review by Janet Maslin in the New York Times, in which she talked glowingly about Scott's book, Ice Harvest, and it sounded so extraordinary that I got a copy and called Richard.
I remember getting the book from Scott and thinking, boy, this looks good. As opposed to so many of the books I get on any given week. And remember being surprised to have a recommendation from you from a book that I had just received a couple of weeks earlier. I'm curious, Scott, at what point did Ron and Albert, the producers on this film, at what point did they option it?
They optioned it pretty early.
Was the book out yet?
I don't remember if the book was out, but it was pretty early in the process. We had one other offer on the table, which was for considerably better money, but I really liked all the movies that Ron and Albert had made.
We loved the book so much, and it seemed to me a perfect book to adapt. It was very cinematically written, and the characters were rich and unlike any other characters I know about, and it had this great, extraordinary humor and sadness about it at the same time.
You pick up Ice Harvest, you don't have to know, you don't have to read very far to know that this is just dying to be a movie.
It's funny though that you talk about the book being cinematic, because when I was writing it, I had been writing screenplays for a little while, very unsuccessfully. And when I wrote this book, I was absolutely convinced that it was unfilmable.
Yeah.
Because it felt to me very internal, and you know, I thought, well, you know, this is this guy walking around thinking about stuff and having dirty thoughts. And then the book having been optioned, I reread it and I thought, oh yeah, you could film this.
It's very compact. There's a distinct through line to the narrative. It's restricted in terms of time and space. Lots happens. I mean, there's all the elements of
which is, I guess,
story.
something I did get out of screenwriting, which I had previously considered a big waste of time on my part.
If you were a certain kind of writer, if you write good dialogue, as you do, and as you say, you know, it's time and space are restricted in a certain kind of way. This is a story that takes place all in one night. How wonderful is that for a movie? So it turns out that we're maybe a little more filmic than we think we are in our most literary moments. Because the process of making a movie from a novel is essentially always going to be reductive, right? You have to take something that an experience of the week or a couple of weeks in which most people would read a novel, depending on how long it is, and you reduce it to something that people are going to see in 2 hours. It's a different experience, and so you know that part of your job as a screenwriter is just to reduce. And so you're always looking for things that come out, but you're also in the back of your mind very aware that if you take out too much, you may in fact have gutted the whole thing. And it always amazes me how easy it is in writing a screenplay and then turning the screenplay into a movie, how there's a point at which somebody always wants to take out the very thing that attracted them to the project in the first place.
Christmas Eve. Ho ho fucking ho.
Did you, as one of your characters did in the novel, ever want to shoot the little drummer boy?
Yes,
Did you ever get to the point where if you said, if the little drummer boy walked in the door right now, I'd shoot him dead?
Well, the idea of it being Christmas came from the fact that I worked in a mall, and boy, I came to hate Christmas for a long time. I mean, Christmas was the worst part of the year for me. And, you know, these Christmas songs came to have a very different meaning for me because it meant a lot of, you know, anxiety and stress at work.
Stocking stuffers.
Big spender.
Do you have any kids? No. Then shut the fuck up. Bag it.
I thought, you know, having these Christmas songs playing, you know, along with, you know, under the surface of this novel, you know, being mentioned all the time, they can't get away from these Christmas carols, was sort of this motif of something that means the opposite of what it's supposed to mean.
Since when are you a friend of the working girl?
It's Christmas, Dennis. It's God's birthday.
Well, the reason I set the book in 1979 was because it was a period that I remembered very well, and that was when I was hanging around in the strip clubs. And the strip clubs have changed a lot. I mean, they used to be, you know, really dives, you know, where I came from, anyway. They used to be really pretty crappy places, and then they got kind of upscale, and, you know, I haven't been to one in years. But for me, it was a period of transition. I was 18 years old in 1979. And so, to me, I was like Ronnie, the kid who's in love with the stripper.
I love you.
And it's a period of transition for Charlie, I guess. So that's why Ron Yerxa asked me, you know, is there any reason you feel like this has to be set in 1979? And I said, not really, except that there was the problem of the cell phone, which is, you know, if Charlie's got a cell phone, his problems are all over. I mean, he just calls, where's Renata? Oh, yeah, where's Vic? You know. and which you solved very nicely, I thought, by having.
Yeah, that was one of the technical difficulties.
Oh. As long as you show it in the 70s, you're going to trap a movie audience into thinking this is specifically about what people like in the 70s. It's a nostalgia piece, and I never felt that about Charlie, and I never felt it about Vic or Pete or any of the people there. I felt that they were as immediate to me as if it had happened now.
And I think guys like Charlie have always been around. You know?
Yeah, the Charlies of the world haven't changed. It's just the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. Charlie started off, for me, one afternoon I had walked into a bar. It was after 4, so I figured that was all right. And I went in, and this guy was sitting at the bar with a cigarette in his hand, and he just leaning forward ever so slowly until his hair started to smolder. And the bartender patted his hair out with a bar rag and took his cigarettes and his matches away and then gave him another drink. I thought that was so great that I decided to describe that as the opening part of this book. And I didn't have any idea who was watching this, but I just wrote the scene and had a guy watching it, and I described him as a lawyer, and I knew he was going to be a crooked lawyer, and he just took off from there. And the thing I discovered about Charlie was that he always takes the path of least resistance. And this is something interesting because John Cusack mentioned this to me, and he used that exact phrase, and I said, that's weird because that's a phrase I've used to describe Charlie.
Is that right, Charlie? You didn't even send him any Christmas presents?
No. Christmas is tomorrow.
Somebody who always takes the path of least resistance is not a prescription for. I mean, if you're sending screenplays out to actors, you're going to say we have a wonderful story about a guy who's very passive and always takes the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
Any takers? Well, and Cusack manages with a character like that to convey to audiences a lot of our own weaknesses and somehow makes them charming.
Yeah.
I think we love that about him.
You want to take the money and not me? You want to take the money? No, I don't know. I was just... Well, if you want to take the money, I mean, if you think you can do a better job of guarding $2 million... No. It should be you. It should be you. It's just we didn't discuss that.
I've spent the better part of a career now trying to figure out what it means to be a man in America, and I still don't know the answer to that yet, but I'm always researching, as it were, and watching Charlie careen around, going from bar to bar, strip club to strip club. All this motion, it has to mean something. And when you finally do get to the shot where Charlie goes home...
There's my chair in there. I can't fill it.
Neither can I if it makes you feel any better.
Or to what used to be his home and what used to be his life. You finally get a glimpse of what all the motion means. This is what Charlie is running away from.
Hey, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
But it's only when he gets home and he sees his kids and the look on his face when his little girl wants to, a little girl who still believes in him.
And it's very nicely underplayed.
Oh,
I mean, John,
gorgeous. It's
really,
one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's just heartbreaking, which to me suggests the deeper, darker issue of what does it really mean to be a man in America at this particular point in our culture.
No goddamn life left for men anymore. Not here. This country, all's left for men is money and pussy.
Ron said, well, you know, he's very diplomatic. He said, well, Russo has this idea, and we don't want to, we just wonder if this is okay with you. And, you know, not that I had any veto power over it or anything, but he says, what if Pete is the current husband of his ex-wife instead of his ex-brother-in-law? And I said, I think that's terrific. I wish I'd thought of that for the book because, you know, frankly, I don't think any of the complications that are in the book because of that are very interesting.
She's still wearing flannel to bed?
Silly me. I thought until I met and married Sarah Beth that it was only little children who wore those things with the feet sewn on the bottom. You could have warned me about that, and I'm actually being kind of serious here.
I tried to, Pete. I really did.
Yeah, bullshit. I was the end of your alimony problem. That's what I was.
Like hell you were in love with my wife.
In a way, it seemed radical at the time, but it wasn't radical at all because you were keeping the thing that
You keep the
loved.
character.
You kept the character.
The character stayed the same.
You kept the thing you loved. What you changed was a relationship, and it got rid of the necessity of not only that extra character, but 2 or 3 others that would have had to be brought in.
In a funny way, it's less complicated because you don't have to explain. Well, he's married to the sister of Charlie's ex-wife. It's less complicated in that way, but it's a lot more complicated in a good way because it gives Charlie and Pete this weird thing between them.
Yeah.
It's something I have to tell you. It's been on my conscience, and you can punch me if you want to.
I don't think I'm going to want to.
Back when you and Sarah Beth were still married that last year, she and I were fucking.
No kidding.
It's a strange feeling seeing, seeing all these things that that basically exist as fantasy and seeing them come to life on the screen.
As Wichita falls, so falls Wichita Falls.
I don't know where I saw that. As Wichita falls, so falls Wichita Falls. But when I was writing the first draft of the screenplay with Benton, we were, for some reason, that just. Wichita. It came into my mind from God knows where, and it was this story about something happening, causing something else to happen, and causing something else to happen, and about the relationship, the causality of things, and it just seemed a perfect emblem for Charlie. This is the message that Charlie wants to give to people.
As Wichita falls, so falls Wichita Falls. What sort of fucking moron would write such a thing?
And I just love in the movie the fact that you just don't know who's been writing it until the very end.
I mean, it's what I love that Harold has done with this is he's made it funny and touching and violent, and you never know what's coming next. I mean, I think the pacing of it is just phenomenal. I think Harold has done a brilliant job.
I think he hit the tone of the book.
I do too.
I
think it is a book noir.
I think it was a noir.
It's a very fine line. I'd never thought of it as the novelistic equivalent of film noir, but to me, the novel is funny. But it's also really, really dark. And to me, the thing was, can you walk that line and not fall off in forgetting either side? And I think Harold and you guys, I think, it walks that line very nicely. And that, frankly, is where the film could have gone completely wrong. I mean, if they made it like this is a very dark, this is a dark, important piece about, one man's existential miasma. It could have been, a pretty grim and uninteresting movie.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
And that is great. Because I think Harold has done an amazing job of taking this and respecting the voice of the book.
Everything that I like about the book is still in the movie. I mean, I think, when I watched it, I thought, God damn.
Or if it hadn't been made into such a good movie, I'm not sure how much longer I could continue to do this kind of work because of the anxiety and the failure rate of it. But then you get to see the movie. And it's good. And you think to yourself, what was so difficult about the last 4 years? It was only 4 years. And we sit around and talk about it as if it was a gag from start to finish. And it's beginning to feel like we had a good time. Right. So we must have.
The thing I was most grateful for was that the line about the campus crusade for cunnilingus.
That's right.
Stayed in.
If you play your cards right, this hot-ass little Jesus freak just might initiate you into the campus crusade for cunnilingus.
Richard said, if that line goes, I go.
Well, this has been fun, guys. I've enjoyed this a lot, and we hope that you have too.
Go and look at the movie again with the profound insights that you've learned from the three of us and see if it makes a difference.
I think you're going to want to watch it over and over. I know I'm going to want to watch it over
and over.
So that's my take.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
There she is. It's kind of beautiful out here, huh?
The lake was a big set piece in the book, and carried over the screenplay, and was always the biggest challenge from physical production.
The edge that is around the pool, has that been dressed with ice?
It's going to just take a few minutes and some guys to maybe pack some ice around the edge there. But if we just
Yeah, that's sort of the centerpiece of the whole movie. It's a spectacular set that Patrizia, our production designer, designed.
Bringing more snow, a grip, but bringing it toward us. You know, go off this way and go off toward the other corner.
Doing the lake sequence meant creating a whole frozen lake.
Well, I was thinking that you continue.
We had to go to a land reclamation project which had no lake and create a mini lake, and then, you know, through moving land around physically and also digitally build in the larger lake and its surroundings.
Well, let's not forget, it's a computer-generated shot anyway, they'll fix it. We built a 65-foot pier out into this field off of a berm, you know, a little hillside, and we sunk a swimming pool in the ground. We kind of made our own swimming pool in the ground with asphalt and a pond liner, and filled it with water, and then covered it with melted paraffin, which hardens and looks just like ice. Paraffin, also the special effects department carries around, and they have big pots, the kind of pots you deep fry a turkey in. They put them on these hot plates and they melt the paraffin right there and then pour it out on the ground where we need it. And it made it so much easier to stage, not on a real lake.
All right, guys, here we go. Safety meeting. All right, in this shot, we have our two stuntmen, Vic and Roy, along with our actor, John. Before we do the stunt, we will rehearse it one time.
So in the climactic scene, there's a pier collapse, and Billy Bob and Mike Starr fall through the ice. They're actually breaking through a wax layer on top of the water.
Billy Bob does not like water, so we had to be very careful that we didn't have like deep, cold water for him to work in.
All right, here we go.
I have a phobia about that. Yeah, I'm not big on water.
That was the first thing he warned me about when we talked on the phone. He said the scene where I go in the water, he said, I have a deadly fear of drowning.
I can barely take a shower, but I do it every day.
Jim, you have to be struggling to tread water, keep afloat, hang on to something. John does not stay that close to him. He hands John the gun, John's going to step away.
Take a step back a little farther?
Yeah, because two guys are going to shoot each other. He's not going to be standing next to the guy.
Has to come back and look. That's what I'm
talking.
Well, we did a rehearsal to see how big of a tank we needed, and on the rehearsal days we dropped it to see where we would go exactly, because there's some of our apparatus underneath the water to pull the pier apart, make sure they were clear of that, and put them all in the right positions that Harold and the actors felt they wanted to be on the rehearsals or blocking the rehearsals for themselves.
When we do the stunt, we'll start the rain. After we've got that going, then roll the cameras. And everybody will have to say set on the cameras, and then at that point we call action.
It was fairly awful to shoot. We were out in the middle of nowhere, and creating rain on all these sequences meant that we have huge cranes standing by with rain towers and there's a rain bar on the crane.
Now, the stunt is as follows. The pier is going to fall, and Roy will slide in first, I assume.
With the trunk.
With the trunk, and next will be Vic will fall back this way, or is he going to come forward?
Coming to the right.
Coming to the right also. Right. And then John is just going to be back. Okay, any questions? Okay, here we go, on a rehearsal. Guys, walk around the ice, please. Don't walk on the ice. Just before we go, we'll pick up the cones.
It's kind of technically difficult, and which makes it a little tedious when you just want to kind of keep moving fast. Let's do it.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
See, Mark?
Action.
was a little bit of guesswork there, and it worked out just right, and went real well. One take, and we got it. So I think everybody's happy.
See what you looks like he's doing a Billy jackknife straight in.
Rumble smash.
I can't feel my legs. I'm dying here. I'm dying.
In the end, combined with the CG work, it's going to be a pretty convincing sequence.
It was a very complicated combination of production design and stunt work and general orchestration. And I think it came off great.